Breanne is the founder and CEO of Sēkr, the van life app, which is the #1 app for easy and epic camping trips. I use it myself. You can find campsites, events. It helps you find cell coverage and other people nearby. And since she launched her business out of the Zip Launchpad, she's raised over $3 million in funding. She's grown her team to a huge team, and she's learned a whole lot along the way. So we're thrilled to have Breanne with us today to share her story. And Breanne, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours. Find you. Where'd you go?
Thanks, Erica. And just let me know, can you give me like a 5-minute heads up when I'm supposed to be done? I think I have 20 minutes, right?
I will.
Cool. Awesome. So I'm excited to be here, everybody, to tell my story. I am actually in Boston right now at the Harvard School of Business. And coming from a state school, like a public state school, this place is unbelievable. Like the level of privilege that is here is absolutely absurd. And it makes me realize how resilient founders coming from different socioeconomic like histories have to be in order to achieve the same level of success that someone who gets to go to this school or is born into a family coming from the school it gets the opportunity to achieve. So to give a little bit of my background, I am a 3-time founder. I've founded companies through bootstrapping, creative acquisition, and venture capital. And all of that I've done in the past 5 years. I'm going to share, I kind of went through a little memory lane looking through old photos so that I could kind of share my photos, my history, and my founding story through photos. So, Erica, can you give me sharing privileges?
Yep, just give me a second.
So in 2017, to give you a little background, I was a lecturer at San Diego State University. I knew nothing about business. I was a communication professor, so I taught gender and intercultural and interpersonal communication. And in 2017, my wife and I, because we were both teachers, we loved to travel a lot, and we bought a van and converted it into a camper van. And that's really how my serious entrepreneurship journey got started. So I'm going to share. And I'm sharing through what I shared publicly. This is how we got our start. It was really on Instagram. I started posting about our journey and the van that we were building out because I wanted to record it. I was actually kind of anti-social media. I was a super late adopter of Facebook and MySpace, for those of you who know what that is, and Instagram, very late adopter, but I was a very early mover in the van life niche and the van life movement in 2017. So I was recording my journey so that we would have it, but we ended up just growing this big following. People just wanted to hear our story. They were inspired by us building out a tiny home inside our van. That's my wife in the back, Lacey, and her stepmom, Giselle, building the van. We did it ourselves with her dad and her stepmom, and eventually it turned into something really beautiful. And in the summer of 2017, we took off for our first road trip, going from San Diego up to Canada and back for 2 months. And we were sharing our story along the way. Y'all still see this?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we were sharing our story along the way, and people kept saying, "You're living my dream." And on one end, that was really like cool, like flattering. It's great to be living people's dreams. But on the other hand, we wanted other people to live their own dream. And when we got back to San Diego, we started hosting these meetups. And the van life, so what we found while we were on the road is that there are three primary problems. Number one, finding a campsite is really difficult. We ended up in Walmart parking lots a lot. There were very rarely national park or state park campgrounds available. And when you were searching for campgrounds, you had to use like 20 different platforms and Google Satellite and all of that. So finding a place to stay was hard. And people were lonely. People who were traveling full time on the road were very lonely and they wanted community. And we all utilized social media and Instagram specifically as a way to connect with each other. And the third thing was we needed access to amenities, like how do we fill up on water? Where do we plug in for electricity? How do we dump our gray water or black water? Things like that. So there was no one resource for everything. And I learned over and over and over again that that was the story as I was hosting these meetups and these gatherings. We'd get the first gathering we hosted, actually, you can probably see, this was the first, I just put it up on Instagram. And in looking at the journey, I actually found our original Zip Launchpad pitch deck. And we used to be called Gather. I came into the Zip Launchpad wanting to create a network of campgrounds that was like a network of hostels, but for vans and where you could co-work as well, because everybody was a digital nomad. So I put this together. I did the same thing. You know, it's the lean startup. What's the problem? What's the solution? And what's the model? And I was wrong on everything except for the problem. Definitely, their network of campgrounds is a great solution, but it's not my solution. I did experiment one where we did interviews. I like basically came up with a solution. And as a communication scholar, I am basically like a boomer when it comes to technology. So I am living proof that anybody can build a website. This was our original landing page experiment. I built it on Squarespace, and it was basically a page that said, connect with people, find free campsites, and search our database. And that, like, I did all of these graphics, and I know they're incredible, but we ended up getting several thousand people signed up on the wait list. So we were able to prove that this product was necessary, that this product was needed, that there was a real problem worth solving. And what's funny is I started an Instagram account for the Gather app. And my co-founder is actually right here. She was not my co-founder at the time. I didn't know her, but she's here commenting on the one of our posts, saying, asking questions, saying it's a good idea. And eventually it turned into the van life app. And then we realized that van life is really just this adjacent market, the camping industry. For the camping industry is gigantic. They're like 7 in 10 Americans go camping every year. There is no one centralized database for you to find and book campsites. It is split up between dozens of different apps. So we are really, if you think about like Sēkr, to put it in perspective, we are the Expedia of outdoor travel. We're digitizing outdoor travel inventory into one place so you can find and reserve your camping trip. And the outdoor travel industry, we realized, was very similar to the travel industry in the 90s. And I saw this as my opportunity to just create the next Airbnb. And luckily, we got at the Zip Launchpad, in one of the review panels, I met our first investor, who was Andrew Ballister. I had no idea he was in the room, but he ended up wanting to invest in us. And I have a lot of, since then, since 2019, I've raised $3.5 million in venture capital. And I probably don't have time in this talk, but if we ever want to talk about venture capital from the perspective of somebody who does not come from wealth, who comes from poverty and houselessness, I have, my experience in the world of startup and venture capital has been an extreme evolution, and it's a journey that I'm actually going to start sharing on social media pretty soon. So this was the launch of our app. I'm not going to share the video, the whole thing, but I'll share part of it. So we launched the app, and honestly, it was the biggest belly flop of our lives. We had thousands of people ready for the app. We launched it before it was ready for prime time because we had run out of money. We made every mistake in the book. We used an outsourced development company. We didn't have a CTO. So we kind of belly flopped. And luckily, a few months after we launched, we got into Techstars. And Techstars is a startup accelerator. I highly recommend it. Ryan Cooter is the managing director at Techstars Anywhere, and he's San Diego based. If you get a chance to meet him, he's awesome. Techstars Anywhere was how we learned. I grew my network. And honestly, that is probably the key to the success that we've had, is the network. We were introduced to VCs, and I got connected with more mentors and advisors, and it was the catalyst for us to be able to raise the seed round, which ended up being 500,000. And then about a year later, we raised our seed at 2.25 million. And for any of you looking to raise venture capital, you want to make sure you're taking money from people that are value aligned with you. Venture capital should be opportunity. You shouldn't be raising venture capital for survival. I have a few tips on what I would do if I was starting over. And number one is to get champions in your corner. So the reason I've been successful at raising VC is because I surrounded myself with people who believed in me, who were rooting me on, and who were willing to put mentorship, time, and money behind me. And as an underestimated founder, that is a really difficult thing to find. You're going to find, as any founder, you're going to get way more no's than you will yeses. And it's important early on for you to surround yourself with people who believe in you, even if it's just one or two people. Like, get those people in your corner. And the second is get the right people on your team. When we closed our pre-seed round, I just got lucky, and I hired one of the pioneers of the technology behind the vacation rental industry when it was digitizing, and it just changed the trajectory of our company. It gave us a future. It gave us a vision into the future that we didn't know existed because we hadn't been through it before. So getting the right people on our team, it was absolutely core. And then validating our problem over and over and over again. So as you're building a startup, we are in an industry in the outdoors that is evolving very, very, very quickly. And the problem that we had in 2017 is different from the problem that we have in 2022. So you have to stay up to date and really connect with your community. I think our differentiator, more so than anything, is that we are our community. We are created for and by community. The thing that makes us special is that we connect people. And over the past year, I've actually lost sight of that a little bit because I got caught in the VC trap. And the VC trap is where you start trying to hit milestones as opposed to solve the problem that you originally set out to solve, or to build the product or build the company that you envision. VC trap is when you just are trying to get to the next stage, the next fundraise. And as I was doing that, I lost sight of community, and I started making the wrong decisions. I started making decisions to launch product before it was ready, and I started pushing my team too hard to hit milestones. And a couple months ago, I took a step back and I realized my co-founder and I had made a decision very early on not to get caught in VC, not to make decisions based on what investors wanted, but to make decisions based on what was best for our community, what was best for the industry, and what would be the best solution to the problem that we were trying to solve, which is to make the outdoors more accessible to more people. And a couple months ago, the economy shifted and we got caught. We had a deal fall through. We got caught in this place where we needed more capital to hit larger milestones because of the economy shifting, but we needed to hit larger milestones in order to get more capital. So a couple months ago, we decided to take a step back and do a community round. So we're going back to community. We have a team of 11 people full-time, 15 people internationally, and we're just so excited to launch this community round. We're using a platform called WeFunder. It's an equity crowdfunding campaign or crowdfunding platform, and we are going to raise 2.5 to 5 million doing that. And the beautiful thing about this is that we are getting back to our original magic. When we first launched, we had a connection and a connection with our community that was just incredible. It was like it created this level of virality that we weren't asking for, but it was happening because we were offering value. And being able to get back to that with this community round is something we're really excited for. So we're going to be launching that next month. And the next phase of my journey is that I'm sharing my story on TikTok because my team is making me share my story on TikTok. And yeah, if you want to follow along, you can. We're in a very pivotal moment where we are close to running out of money, which is very common for startups. my whole team is very aware, and we are fighting to get out of it. And I have all the faith in the world in my team and what we're able to do, and a very healthy amount of fear as well. But I'm excited to talk to you now because I think that oftentimes we get founder stories after the fact. And I am telling you my founder story while I am in it, while I am being challenged, while I'm being put past my limit. And I think that it's a really valuable, I want to give valuable insight to founders because what I'm going through now is something that I never got to see because nobody opens up that way. So I hope by sharing my story, I'm gonna be sharing lessons that you will not have to learn the hard way. And yeah, let's open it up to questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Breanne. Okay, so now if you have any questions for Breanne, you can post them in the chat. And in the meantime, I have some questions to get us started. But please, everybody, send in some questions. Let's start with, what are some innate qualities that you possess that you have attributed to your success so far?
Innate qualities that okay. Honestly, I think my number one, like by far the most valuable skill or characteristic I have is that I can see people's potential. Like I can see as a CEO and as a founder and as an employer, I can see a future that doesn't exist yet. And I used to not, I never really understood the value of that until now, because I am seeing that future that I envision come to life. And being able to see it before it happens and being able to see people's potential before they actualize it is a really magical quality to have. Because by seeing other people's potential, I can help them see it in themselves. And I'm just seeing people evolve and become leaders in a way that I've never been able. Like I feel very lucky to see, and those are people on my team.
How long ago did you know you wanted to pursue launching your own company? And when did it go from like, yeah, someday I'll do that, to like, all right, it's time to buckle down and like actually do this?
Well, I had the idea in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the Launchpad in 2017 for the van life app, or for Gather, for Sēkr. I'm just gonna say Sēkr now. And
Yeah.
And I knew I have always known that I wanted to retire early and get financial freedom. I was like that child that had a lemonade stand and charged like $5 a lemonade and like knocked on people's doors to mow their lawn. And I've always been somewhat of an entrepreneur, but I never knew business because it just wasn't something in my environment. And I actually took the leap to quit, to go full time into business in 2019. So it took me a couple of years to be able to build up the courage to like really, and the security to leave my full-time job.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a big leap. It's always fun to hear entrepreneurs who like they've known from when they were little, like they're hustling. All right. Another question. Let's see. What does your day-to-day routine look like now versus when you like first were starting with Gather?
Well, when I first was starting with Gather, it was a side project. So I was a teacher. that was what my day-to-day looked like. And it was at San Diego State, so my day-to-day was often there. And now as a CEO, I kind of shift where my company needs me to be. And right now we're going, like, the past year, my day-to-day has looked a lot like a ton of meetings every single day with investors, teammates, potential partners. And now I'm doing a lot of creative writing and storytelling. And it's really cool because we're doing this WeFunder. So part of the WeFunder is that we're taking a month to build up buzz, and we're just starting that. Like, we just started it. And so if you want to watch right now, I just posted my first, like, thing on it. But my whole team is behind it. So I've been doing a lot of reflecting and a lot of research around leadership and burnout and what it's like for underestimated founders in venture capital. And I'm going to take all of those learnings and start telling that story. And I believe that by telling that story, this is the beautiful thing about being a founder, is that I truly believe that by this pivot of going from VC to community, that this is our moment to have hockey stick growth. Like, this is the moment that we're going to go from struggling to, by the end of the year, blowing the F up and having like a bidding war for one of our future rounds. And it's only, I got here because I got way too burnt out and my team was burnt out. And we had to find a different solution. Like, continuing to push a boulder up a hill when your legs are broken is not the solution, right?
Yeah.
The VC cycle was not working for me, and it wasn't fair to my team. I felt like I was leading my team down a path to, like, to failure. So this transition has been really enlightening, to go back to community and to be able to really think about what can we do right now that will help us build the company that we envision in alignment with our vision, mission, and values. And that is what we're doing right now. And we're actually building better product now. Our team is less stressed out, and we're only a couple months in, but by the end of the year, you will all see the results. We're gonna crash and burn, or we're gonna be the next big thing.
I'm waiting for the next big thing. I'm excited, and congratulations on that transition. It looks like we've got some questions in the chat. So Britt asks, what are your plans for expanding?
What? Can you clarify, what do you mean plans for expanding? Like, internationally?
Yeah, let's put it in that context, like beyond, because Sēkr covers the whole United States right now, and that's a humongous market. What would you do, let's say, if you're completely saturate the United States market?
So we actually do have plans to expand. We are already international, so we're in Canada and Mexico right now. We'll be expanding to Australia and New Zealand and the UK in 2023, and then Spain, Germany, a few other countries after that. Camping is an international phenomenon. It is one of the most popular pastimes in the world, and very few people from a capitalist perspective have been able to see the opportunity. Yeah. So we're very lucky to be in a space that has been undervalued and underseen.
So how do you, like, let's talk about expanding to Germany. How do you reach out to contacts there, or do you send your team there? What is the process for like opening up that market onto your app?
Yeah. So how about we talk about Australia? Australia
Yeah.
and New Zealand, we actually do have partners over there already. And we have partnerships with technology platforms that have already started the digitization of inventory. And we have partnerships with marketing partners, people who like both influencers and companies, media companies that are like influential in the outdoor travel space in Australia and New Zealand. So we already have those relationships going, and it's really a process of building relationships until you're ready to activate. We're not ready to activate right now.
Yeah.
Right now, we're very much focused on the United States and North America. But when we are ready to start going, I have a meeting with some government agency in the UK soon, like next month or something, as a preliminary meeting, because they reached out, they have grants to help expand their travel and tourism.
Wow.
So if you talk to people and you tell your story, you'll find that you get opportunities that you otherwise would never, ever have known about.
And how did you find your, like you said, you already have partners in Australia. Did you reach out to them directly? Were they already, like, how did you connect with those people?
Because I was one of the first like van life influencers in the US, I was part of a documentary that was made by this group of Australian I don't even know. Van Life Diaries was what they were called, and they made a documentary, and I think it won a couple awards. But I built a relationship with them. They were from Australia. In Australia, van life was a gigantic thing. It had been around much longer as a popular like lifestyle in Australia than it had been in the US. So that's Australia. And also the companies that we work with, the tech companies that we work with here in America, started in Australia. So their inventory actually started over there.
Cool.
So that's how we have those relationships. And with the UK, we got a cold email.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's just about putting yourself out there, huh?
Yeah.
All right, looks like Alex sent in a question. Have you ever struggled with motivation in the beginning stages before you saw any real results? And then a follow-up would be any advice you have to a young entrepreneur that has been struggling with motivation.
Motivation is a really interesting thing. So number one, I recommend buying the book, The High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. It is absolutely changing my life, and it's so simple, and it sounds stupid, but it's so powerful. And it's about changing your neural pathways and the way you think to be more positive, because motivation comes from within you. Would you say
that book title again? Would you say that book title?
I put it in the chat.
Yeah, there you go. High Five Habit. And another thing, I feel very lucky as a person to be driven by a mission. And I found my mission as a founder is to help build other leaders. Like my mission as an individual is to help people, and then help people. So very similar to Simon Sinek, right? But like specifically around marginalized people with marginalized identities like myself. Like women only get 2% of venture capital. That's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So how do we get more capital in the hands of people who have not had the same opportunity as the founders of the companies we know today? So whenever I feel defeated, and trust me, I actually woke up this morning feeling defeated. I woke up this morning feeling defeated, and I went into a gas station because I'm out on the East Coast visiting a few of my teammates. I didn't get enough sleep, which is normal for a founder, but I think what I do differently now is that I realize I don't get enough sleep. So I didn't get enough sleep. I went into a gas station to grab a coffee, and I was like in a bad mood. And the person behind the counter was just so nice to me. And she was like, take the coffee for free. And I walked out. I was like, are you serious? And I just walked out and I started pumping the gas. And in my head, I was like, you just turned my day around. Like, I don't need a free cup of coffee. I don't. I can pay for a cup of coffee. I don't need a free cup of coffee. But the fact that she showed me kindness and gave me that coffee made me feel different about myself. And I think that part of the way that I get motivation now is by actually seeing those things when those things happen. Because me 6 months ago probably wouldn't have seen that really appreciated that nice gesture. Like I recorded it. I like said something. I'm gonna post it on TikTok later today, but like it changed my day. It absolutely changed the rest of my day, which then changed the way I treated people and like so on. So I went back in and I was like, I had a really shitty morning and you just turned my morning around. And I gave her $40 because that's what I had to do. And honestly, it was the nicest. I think when we see those things more often, that gives us motivation. At least that gives me motivation.
What a great story. And that's so amazing that happened this morning. Make sure, oh God.
Day. Things like that happen every day if you look for it. Like right now, I'm in my life, I'm experiencing so many challenges. And instead of looking at it as something that's defeating me, I'm looking at all of them as the challenges that I need to face in order to become the person that I want to be, right? Like they are opportunities for me. Like not being able to raise another round of VC is actually an opportunity for me to go back to my community and tell my story and tell my team's story. So it's really just the way that you look at failures. And that sounds stupid to say, but if you read the High Five Habit.
Yes. All right, last question. And we could have time for one more if someone sends it in, but we'll make this the last for now. Where and how do you find decent team members? So starting from the very beginning.
All right. So I've had a couple of different companies. So I've found team members a lot of different ways. I've hired a couple students that I've had that were interns and then became like employees. I have hired through Craigslist, Indeed, Upwork, my social circles, through Instagram, LinkedIn. I've hired pretty much across the gamut. And I'd say as far as finding people, if you're hiring employees, like just get the word out as far as you can. And I specifically post on diverse job boards so that it reaches a diverse candidate pool.
Can you give some examples of like a diverse job board?
Yeah, like women in tech, oh God, I can't think of them right now, but there's like women in tech, there's Black I can't think of the organizations right now. I have an entire list of them that I'm happy to share with
That would
you.
be
I
great.
think, yeah, I have like 16 of them.
Awesome.
It's been a little while. We haven't raised
Yeah.
VC funding. So, but honestly, my best hires have been me actively recruiting specific people. I hired a VP of growth at the beginning of the year, and I'd been wanting to hire her for months, and she had offers from everyone. And she had her own company, so she didn't want to work for anyone, but she believed in me and she believed in my vision. And I eventually was able to convince her to come on the team. And it has been one of the best hires I've made.
What are like some of the questions you ask when you're like interviewing someone to qualify them for your team?
It's very different depending on the role, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my number one, our hiring thesis is that we look for people who are humble, hungry, and resourceful. So people who are willing to learn and know they don't know everything and are hungry to learn and to grow their career or grow a startup, and who are resourceful because we are a startup and we need people to be resourceful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those three things above anything are more important. Hard skills can be learned if a person has the right soft skills.
That makes sense. All right, last question. We'll go with, what are some of your marketing tips to promote your vision?
Tell your story. I think too many of us we don't tell our stories. This past year, I've only been telling my story to investors because I've been like raising money, and then I closed our seed round, and then I was going to go out for our bridge in Series A, and I stopped telling my story to our community, and I have a lot of catching up to do because people only know what you tell them. And if you don't tell them anything, like you have to control the narrative, or at least you have to get the narrative out there. So tell your story. I don't care if it's through LinkedIn, through Instagram, through media, through like journalism, whatever it is, get your story out.
Great. Yeah, that is the truest thing. We're at Shredlights, we're turning to that as well, trying to be more personal, telling our story a lot less of like, this is the product and this is what it does, and more like, this is the team, this is how we make decisions. And you can really see the way it impacts our like community of customers.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's catch up later and see how it goes for both of our companies. I think,
yeah, absolutely. We were actually on the WeFunder path for a while too.
Sweet.
All right. Well, any last words, Breanne, for the audience?
No, I think one of the things that I get asked the most is like how to build community and how to build an audience. And your question just inspired me to think about this. And the key to it is to be valuable to people, to like bring value to people's lives. Too many companies see community as like this commodity that they need in order to make their business successful. It's like, oh, I just need to hit this number. Like I need X number of people in my community. But in reality, I built a community of hundreds of thousands of people before I even had a product, because I liked them, because I hosted events and I wanted to be around them, and I knew that people were lonely, so I brought them together for free. So if you bring value to people, that becomes viral. Like,
Absolutely.
very rare that something, you know, that you curate on social media for attention will actually get good attention. But if you bring value to people, they want to share about it because they want to bring value to other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably my last piece of advice, and probably one of the most valuable things that I've learned as a founder and as a thought leader and as a community member and person, is to bring value and opportunities arise when you do that.
That is such good advice. It's really true. All right. Well, thank you so much, Breanne. That was absolutely wonderful and enlightening. We've got some thank yous coming into the chat. All your answers to the questions were super awesome. Where can they find you on TikTok and other social media?
Well, so I'm Breanne Acio on TikTok. It's brand new. We'll see how that one goes. I'm the Ladies Van on Instagram and Sēkr.official on all channels. And go download the app. It's Sēkr. You can get it on the app stores. Give it a 5-star rating. Find your next camping trip, and get outside.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erica. Bye,
Have a good
everybody.
day, everybody.